Imagine an army of 100,000 gods, the absolute elite of the heavenly realm. These are immortal warriors, dragon riders, star lords, and cosmic generals who control the very elements of the universe. They have surrounded a single mountain, armed to the teeth, ready to obliterate whatever stands in their way. But they aren't here to fight a titan. They aren't here to fight a demon king. They are here to fight a monkey. And the craziest part? The monkey is winning. Forget Zeus, forget Thor. When it comes to mythological figures who are absurdly, unbelievably overpowered, no one even comes close to Sun Wukong, the Monkey King. He is the ultimate trickster, the chaotic, neutral anti-hero, and a being so powerful that the universe literally ran out of ways to kill him. His story comes from the 16th century Chinese epic novel, Journey to the West. It is one of the most famous pieces of literature in human history. But before he was the disciplined bodyguard of a holy monk, Sun Wukong was a menace. He was a force of pure chaos who brought the heavens to their knees simply because he felt disrespected. To understand why he is the most chaotic figure in Asian mythology, we have to go back to the very beginning. Because Sun Wukong wasn't just born, he was forged. On the legendary mountain of flowers and fruit, there was a magical rock. For thousands of years, this rock absorbed the pure energy of heaven and earth, taking in the light of the sun and the moon. Until one day it burst open. From the rubble emerged a stone egg, which the wind instantly transformed into a stone monkey. The moment he opened his eyes, beams of light shot straight up into the heavenly palace, startling the Jade Emperor, the supreme ruler of the cosmos. The emperor looked down, saw it was just a monkey, and brushed it off. That was his first mistake. Back on Earth, the stone monkey quickly befriended the regular monkeys on the mountain. One day, they found a massive waterfall. They made a deal. Whoever was brave enough to jump through the rushing water and find what was behind it would become their king. Without hesitating, the stone monkey leaped through. Behind the waterfall, he found the water curtain cave, a hidden paradise perfect for his people. True to their word, the monkeys crowned him the handsome Monkey King. For nearly 400 years, he lived a life of pure bliss, eating, drinking, and playing. But eventually, the fun stopped. Wukong watched one of the elder monkeys die of old age. For the first time, he realized that no matter how much fun he had, he was bound by the same rule as everyone else. One day, the king of hell would come for his soul, and Sun Wukong absolutely refused to accept that. Driven by a sudden, intense fear of death, Wukong left his kingdom on a wooden raft. He spent 10 years wandering the human world, searching for a way to conquer death. Finally, he found a legendary immortal master named Subhuti. Subhuti recognized Wukong's massive potential and took him in as a disciple. It was Subhuti who gave him the name Sun Wukong, which translates to monkey awakened to emptiness. Under this master, Wukong didn't just learn a little magic. He practically hacked the universe. He mastered the 72 earthly transformations, allowing him to turn into any animal, object, or person. He learned how to manipulate the elements. He learned how to pluck hairs from his own body and blow on them, turning them into thousands of perfect clones of himself. And he learned the cloud somersault, a technique that allowed him to travel 34,000 miles in a single flip. But Wukong was a show-off. After he bragged about his new powers to the other students, Subhuti kicked him out, warning Wukong never to mention his name again. Wukong didn't care. He was practically a god now. But there was a catch. He still wasn't technically immortal. One night, after getting incredibly drunk, Wukong fell asleep. In his sleep, two reapers from the underworld chained his soul and dragged him down to hell. His lifespan of 342 years was up. Most souls would weep and accept their fate. Not Wukong. Wukong sobered up, realized where he was, and got furious. He broke his chains, beat the living daylights out of the demons of hell, and bullied the 10 kings of the underworld into bringing him the official ledger of life and death. He flipped through the book until he found his name, and with a giant ink brush, he crossed it out. Then, just to be safe, he crossed out the names of every single monkey on his mountain. He threw the book down, laughed, and walked out of hell. Congratulations, Wukong. You just achieved immortality method number 1. But he was just getting started. Now that he was unkillable, Wukong realized he needed a weapon that matched his power. Normal swords broke in his hands, so he traveled to the eastern sea to visit Ao Guang, the Dragon King, demanding a weapon. The Dragon King, terrified of the monkey, offered him his heaviest magical spears and halberds. They were tens of thousands of pounds. Wukong tossed them around like toothpicks. Desperate to get rid of him, the Dragon King pointed him to a massive pillar of black iron glowing with golden bands. This was no ordinary pillar. It was originally used by the great god Yu the Great to measure the depths of the ocean flood. It weighed exactly 13,500 jin, which is about 17,500 pounds. The Dragon King thought Wukong wouldn't even be able to lift it. But as Wukong approached, the pillar began to glow. It recognized its true master. Wukong commanded it to shrink. It shrunk into a perfect fighting staff, known as the Ruyi Jingu Bang. He could make it as tall as the heavens or as small as a needle to hide behind his ear. Before leaving, Wukong also bullied the other Dragon Kings into giving him a suit of golden armor, a phoenix feather cap, and cloud-stepping boots. He was now heavily armed, armored, and fully immortal. By this point, the King of Hell and the Dragon Kings went crying to the Jade Emperor in heaven. "This monkey is out of control," they said. "Do something." The Jade Emperor decided to use politics. Keep your friends close and your overpowered enemies closer. He invited Wukong up to heaven and offered him a divine title. Wukong was thrilled. He thought he was being recognized as an equal, but the gods gave him the title of Bima Wen, which basically meant he was the stable boy for the heavenly horses. When Wukong found out he was the lowest-ranking servant in heaven, he snapped. He destroyed the stables, flew back down to his mountain, and declared himself the great sage equal to heaven. The Jade Emperor was furious and sent an army to crush him, but Wukong beat them all flawlessly. Realizing military force wasn't working, the Jade Emperor tried diplomacy again. He officially granted Wukong the title Great Sage Equal to Heaven, though it was a completely empty title with no real power, and gave him a new job, guarding the heavenly peach orchard. This was the worst management decision in the history of the universe. These weren't normal peaches. They were the peaches of immortality. Some ripened every 3,000 years, some every 6,000, and the best ones every 9,000 years. Eating them made you an eternal god. Wukong ate all the ripe ones. All of them. That's immortality method number 2. Shortly after, Wukong found out the Queen Mother of the West was throwing a massive banquet for the most elite gods, and he wasn't invited. So he snuck into the banquet hall before anyone arrived. He used his magic to put the servants to sleep and drank all the heavenly wine of immortality. Immortality method number 3. Stumbling around completely drunk, Wukong wandered into the laboratory of Laozi, the supreme deity of Taoism. There he found 5 gourds filled with the elixir of long life pills forged in the cosmic fires that granted, you guessed it, supreme immortality. Wukong ate them like they were candy. Immortality method number 4. At this point, Wukong's body was a fortified, indestructible vessel of immortal energy, but he knew he was in huge trouble. He fled back to Earth to prepare for war. The Jade Emperor had enough. He deployed the entire heavenly military, 100,000 celestial soldiers, the 28 constellations, the 4 heavenly kings, and Prince Nezha. What followed was a mythical war of epic proportions, but they couldn't beat him. Wukong's transformations, his clones, and his 17,000-pound staff were too much. It wasn't until heaven's greatest warrior, Erlang Shen, fought him to a standstill, and the god Laozi dropped a magical diamond snare on Wukong's head from above, that the monkey was finally captured. They chained him up and tried to execute him. They used giant axes, swords, lightning bolts, and divine fire. Nothing worked. He was simply too immortal. He had stacked so many different types of immortality that his body was completely indestructible. Laozi stepped forward with a plan. He said, "Put him in my 8 trigrams crucible. I will smelt him down with divine fire, burn the elixirs out of him, and reduce him to ash." They locked Wukong in the cosmic furnace and blasted it with intense mystical fire for 49 days. When they finally opened the lid, they expected to find a pile of ashes. Instead, Wukong jumped out. He wasn't burned. The smoke had only irritated his eyes, refining them into the fiery golden eyes, a new power that allowed him to see through any illusion or demon's disguise. Now Wukong was furious. He went on a rampage, smashing through the heavenly palace, beating down gods left and right. The Jade Emperor was forced to hide under his desk. Heaven had officially fallen. The Monkey King had won. With no options left, the Jade Emperor sent a desperate plea to the Western paradise, calling upon the Buddha himself. The Buddha arrived and didn't attack Wukong. Instead, he proposed a wager. He asked the monkey, "Why do you want to rule heaven?" Wukong replied, "Because I am the strongest. I can transform into 72 forms, and I can somersault across the universe." The Buddha smiled and held out his open hand. "If you are so powerful," Buddha said, "let us make a bet. If you can jump out of my hand, you can take the Jade Emperor's throne. But if you cannot, you must submit." Wukong thought this was a joke. He leaped into the air, flying at blinding speeds. He flew past stars and galaxies. Finally, he reached the very edge of the universe, where he saw 5 massive flesh-colored pillars holding up the sky. To prove he had been to the edge of the universe, Wukong wrote on the middle pillar, "The great sage equal to heaven was here." And just to be disrespectful, he peed at the base of the pillar. Then he somersaulted all the way back to the Buddha, demanding the throne. The Buddha simply smiled and said, "You never left my palm." Wukong realized with horror that the 5 pillars at the edge of the universe were just the Buddha's 5 fingers. The Monkey King had never escaped the palm of his hand. Before Wukong could react, the Buddha turned his hand over and slammed it down onto earth, transforming his 5 fingers into the 5 elements mountain. He sealed the mountain with a magical talisman, trapping the invincible Monkey King beneath it. For 500 years, Sun Wukong, the being who conquered death, beat the entire heavenly army, and claimed to be equal to heaven itself, was trapped under a rock, fed only iron pills and molten copper. His hubris had finally caught up to him. But this wasn't the end of Sun Wukong. It was just the end of his rebellion. After 500 years, the goddess Guanyin offered him a chance at redemption. He was to serve as the bodyguard for a mortal monk named Tang Sanzang, embarking on a treacherous journey to the west to retrieve sacred Buddhist scriptures. To keep Wukong in line, they tricked him into wearing a golden band around his head. If he misbehaved, the monk would chant a spell that tightened the band, causing unbearable pain, the one thing in the universe Wukong couldn't fight his way out of. Over the course of their 14-year journey, fighting countless demons and monsters, Wukong learned discipline, loyalty, and humility. By the end, the rebel who broke heaven was granted true Buddhahood, finally finding peace. Sun Wukong's story is a masterpiece of mythology. He represents the untamed, mind-wild, chaotic, and ego-driven, and the long, difficult journey it takes to bring that mind under control. He isn't just powerful, he is the embodiment of rebellion against impossible authority. And that's exactly why, hundreds of years later, he remains one of the greatest, most iconic characters ever written. If you want to dive deeper into the insane lore of ancient myths and overpowered legends, make sure you hit that subscribe button right now. We post high-quality documentaries like this every week. What mythological figure should we cover next? Drop your answer in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next video.